I forgot my actual copy of
I'm gonna get there though. I'm gonna get over there. I want to come over.
I'm doing the walk of shame right
Hurry up.
Hurry up. You got 3 seconds. Next one I've got. I'll be in New Jersey about it.
And she can join us, so nobody have to share on.
Usually I hope you're walking in late with.
Sorry.
I saw your motorcycle.
We did the memo. It's not my motorcycle. It's his motorcycle.
Oh, yes, yours. So I say I saw a motorcycle.
All right. The time is now 7 p.m. on the September 10th, 2024. We'll kick off the Montoursville Area High School Board meeting for the evening. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Mr. Albert,
Here.
Mr. Badger,
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower,
Here.
Mr. Gardner,
Here.
Mr. Kosnick,
Here.
Ms. McCoy, Mrs. Meyer,
Here.
Mrs. Oberheim, here, and Mr. Young is absent this evening.
Yes. All right, recognitions and presentations for the evening. Seeing none. We'll move on to, we have the folks from Site Logic here today. Give us an update. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Good to see you all again. Thank you for providing us a few minutes of your time to talk about our continued study of your elementary buildings. I'd first like to introduce you once again. It's been a bit since we've been here. We have Melissa Colstock to my right. Melissa is our Director of Deliverables. We have Damian Spar back to our right, our project executive, and Donovan Ball, Assistant Project Executive, right next to Damian. We've been working with the district since May. We have been doing some work side by side to do reviews of your elementary buildings, giving you some projections of energy efficiency savings should you go from 2 to 1 building, as well as some things you could do with your staffing. Tonight you have an agenda item with Crabtree listed for approval. We're referenced there, and we felt that it was appropriate in talking with Mr. Tarmina to explain exactly what our involvement would be if you move forward with Crabtree and with us, and how we would work simultaneously to give you the most efficient and orderly project possible. Melissa? You're up.
Yeah, we're mentioned in the Crabtree to be considered as the MEP engineer alongside of Crabtree as your architect. We're here to answer questions as it relates to that.
So if you read that, they are going to participate in the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design of the project, which pulls Crabtree out of it. There is some possible savings there with an ESCO, but they call it a hybrid ESCO, which they're going to explain much better than I could. The bottom line is that it saves money on any type of project we're going to do. That, in addition to any savings from reducing, what we're trying to do is limit the impact on borrowing and on the taxpayer if we move forward with something like this. So this is one of the better ways to accomplish that. Their fee is going to be lower than Crabtree's on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. It's just a smart way for us to proceed through the experience of the last project. This is really a smart way to move forward for the district.
So just for clarity's sake, can it be explained how you would save the district money?
Sure. The way that the hybrid project approach saves district money is through the combination of different procurement methods, right? construction projects for public school districts are kind of relegated to three: public bid, cooperative purchasing, and through a guaranteed energy savings agreement. When you combine multiple or all three or two, what you're able to result in is a project that has best value with lowest risk to the client through combining those procurement methods. Specifically with the GISA, as an example, there are no change orders associated with a guaranteed energy savings agreement, whereas on a public bid project, there are change order exposures. So just by combining those two procurement methods, you're eliminating the risk on a project.
Are you involved in that part with the bidding
Yes.
and everything? So you'll be putting it out to as many people as possible and then picking the best financial decision for the district?
Yes, yes, there is competitive bidding involved in all aspects of procurement.
Thank you.
Yes.
And their agreement, not on tonight. They don't even have it. They haven't even given us anything, because you guys haven't even voted on the first step yet. So if we move forward tonight, they will come in with a, proposal for that part of the project. Any other questions for site logic? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you,
time.
guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Safe travels.
All right, we've also got Mr. Nathan Minium, Dr. Craig Skaluba, and Murata Main Architects for the LICO CTC construction project.
Thank you for having us back this evening. Just a reminder, I'm Craig Skaluba, Superintendent of Muncie School District and Superintendent of Record at LICO CTC. Presentation for this evening is one, the architects from Murata, Maine kind of present the design development schematic design. Copies are being handed out to you now. We'll also display that on the screen. They will then ask you if you have any questions off of their presentation. After that, Mr. Miniman will get up and kind of just do a recap of overall LICO CTC program and some of the important reasons we're going this direction. And then finally, I will close it with, I think, some answers to questions that had been asked by all of the school districts throughout the entire process and kind of give you some of the specifics that you've been looking for. And we'll take questions along the way. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to the architects now.
Hi, my name is Christopher Peters. I'm with Murata Main Architects. There is a large packet, but we're going to go through some stuff pretty quickly and focus on some specific slides. You can stop me at any time if I skip something. Let's see here. Yep, there we go. So we're going to talk about phase one to start. And we'll do a little bit with phase 2 and 3. So phase 1 talks about the new building. On this slide here, it's shown in red. For some orientation, the stadium is off the north side of the plan. Hughesville High School is to the right side of the plan. So this is actually the new building that we're proposing to go underneath the bleachers, and we'll look at that in a second. Along with that, there's some additional parking work and some asphalt work associated on the site. So digging in a little bit, that's the new floor plan. It's specifically two things, two disciplines here. On the left side, it's the welding, and on the right side of the plan, it's diesel. On the furthest right side of this plan is district storage for East Lycoming. So they're taking a piece of that there that faces their high school. And then between the welding and the diesel, there are 2 classrooms. There's some restrooms, lockers, and storage. And on your, you can see it on the slide and probably on your print, there are 2 loft areas. They're hatched there for additional storage above. This is just a quick general plan of the bleachers, and there's a press box up there, but I want to jump to this. So this is the view of the building. The image on the bottom shows some of the bays there. That stair goes up to the press box, and on the back side of the building is the new bleachers for East Lycoming, and this building is fitting underneath those bleachers. We're keeping with some of the materiality, which you'll see later in the presentation of the existing LICO CTC building with a masonry base and siding above. We're not going to dig into the plans too much, but this is the welding side. We've gone through, like Craig said, a schematic and design development process with what type of equipment will be in there. So we have 20 welding booths and a number of other things in this plan, equipment that they would deem useful. And on the left side of that plan is some outdoor fabrication space that would be necessary to do some things that should not be done indoors. And throughout this presentation, we do have some 3Ds. This is to start showing the teachers and the staff what the space might be. We're blocking out some things for just equipment. That's the gray boxes, and just labeling a number of pieces of equipment there. On the right side is the diesel space. So it has those 4 bays there and some open area to do a number of other activities in that area. So that's about, I didn't say this for the welding. Welding's about 2,500 square feet, and then the diesel's about 3,700 square feet with, and then additionally, the 2 classrooms that are between. And then again, another 3D. This one shows one of the loft spaces above. And then we're starting to show some 3Ds for everybody to start understanding, and we can, when we get into it further, to pick materiality, furniture, et cetera. But we have those in the document. So for the cost for phase 1, we're showing 2 pieces here. Oops, did I hit it? If I hit it or. Yeah, oh, there it is. Okay. So on the left part of this slide, we have the phase 1 cost for the CTC building, which includes the welding and the diesel. We have a 4.3 total construction cost, 4.3 million. And then a total project cost of about 4.9 million. That project cost there is listed as 15%. That includes some things that are down below. So designer fees, testing, printing, furniture, and a 5% construction contingency, which we always have in the projects. And then the East Lycoming portion of this, for your information, is on the right side of that slide. So bleachers, press box, and their portion of the building, which is that 1,000 square feet approximately of the storage. And then that totals 1.5 construction and 1.6 for project costs, with a total cost there on the bottom right of that page of 5.8 construction and then 6.6 million for total project cost. And then the last thing for phase 1 that we wanted to note is the overall schedule. Currently, we are at the end of design development, which is that yellow bar there. And then we have a 5-month construction documents period, a bidding period, and then an ordering period, which would happen in the in summer 2025. So that would be to get the bleachers ordered specifically and any steel for the building that we would need. And the plan here would be to start construction when football was over, so we could get in there and then have the bleachers ready for graduation. And then as that was finished, the interior of the building then would finish in the summer of 2026. So the building, welding, diesel would be up and ready for the fall of 2026. So that's all of phase 1. I guess I'll pause to see if there's any questions for what we're calling phase 1, which is the new construction. Okay, let me go through the phase 2. Phase 2 is the existing CTC building, renovation, interiors, and an addition. So the darker red bar that's on that is on the left side, that it's an addition, and then some drive work that's also on the left or the west side of the building that would be associated with that. The plan, I went the wrong way. The floor plan here, on the left is the existing, and on the right is the new. So really, we're talking about automotive tech, we're talking about culinary, we're talking about early childhood. So all those spaces are expanding to the left. Thank you. Expanding to the left in the addition to enlarge their program. And I'm not going to go through all this in detail, but again, we did the same thing with Nate and their staff, what components they would need for this, and we started labeling that on the plan. This is a quick image on the building. There is the pitched roof, and we're adding that low slope roof on the left side. So on the image on the upper left, again, keeping the materiality, some continuity with the building. And then this is some more details. Oh, I did that. Floor plan, going the wrong way now. 3Ds, which we don't need to get into in detail, culinary 3D, and then some of the other spaces in there, office space that will be renovated as well. And then again, some of the simple interior views for phase 2. And then I can't read that. The cost is at the end of that slide, or at the end of phase 2. Cost for phase 2 is 3.6, and that's both the renovation and the new construction or the addition, 3.6 million, and then the project costs of 4.2 million, again, with the 15% multiplier on it. And then lastly, phase 3 is the renovation of the areas within Hughesville High School. And those include, again, on the left there is the existing floor plan, and on the right is the proposed renovation floor plan, which includes the nursing, criminal justice, construction, computer tech. And again, we did the same thing here with labeling the spaces and then showing folks what the spaces might look like when they're renovated. And then the last slide as part of the phase 3 is again the estimated cost for phase 3, which is the renovation there, 2.7 million, construction costs, and about 3.1 project costs. Any questions on phase or any of it before I turn it over to Nate?
How many schools do you have contributing to the cost of the build? 6. And what are those schools? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everybody again. So my part of the presentation this evening, I want to make sure as you have received a lot of information, you heard numbers being thrown out, you saw and you heard renovation, expansion. I just want to make sure in my time that I can answer the why. And if you remember back from the spring when I was here, we kind of went through a lot of our programs. And I really want to hit on the why we need the renovation. Why are we at this point for expansion? So it really comes down to 3 big pieces for us. It's enrollment, it's student opportunities for what they envision in their career path. And it's for our workforce. It's for the workforce in the region, how we can help build that. So if we start to go through, I'll just bring back some of our enrollment trends. You may have seen some of these. I've tried to update and add some new pieces for us to look at this evening. But historically, from back 2019 and up to current enrollment, you can see there's been some gradual uptick with the last couple of years enrollment really starting to take off, and this year being our largest increase in the last several years. We're at 341 today. With that enrollment expansion, we've been able to increase the number of times we offer our programs from 2 times a day to 3 times a day to allow more students in to those programs, both in the morning and the afternoon. And that's because East Lycoming can send students to the middle of the day being on the campus. So last year we added an additional session of early childhood education up to 3. This year you can see we added the 3rd session of construction trades up to 3 sessions a day. So those moves are allowing more students to come into the programs, get the opportunity in the programs that they're wishing to go towards. However, we still have a wait list. As you can see there, that's unfortunately, as the enrollment has increased, the wait list has also continued to increase. So we are not getting students into programs that they want to be in. And I listed there below, as you can see, the auto, culinary, early childhood, and health careers. Those have been the programs that have had a wait list over the number of years and still currently have a wait list. And all 4 of those programs run 3 times a day. So, go back to the renovation and expansion, phase 2 and phase 3, those phases would be necessary to address some of those wait lists in some of those programs. I will also say, I do think adding diesel and welding, we will see some students move from auto into diesel and welding. So I can see auto, the wait list in auto kind of disappearing with diesel and welding. We also need to look at our projected enrollment. These aren't decisions and moves we're making just based on a couple of years, but looking out and trying to forecast, currently if our wait list numbers would continue in the direction they are, enrollment could increase. If we added the diesel and the welding and you saw and you heard 20 seats in each of those programs, 20 seats, and we could get those filled up 3 times a day, that would be 120 students that we could add into our programs. So taking, the 120, adding in, the wait list numbers, we're projecting, that those numbers could continue to increase. And then obviously with phase 2 and 3 and touching all of our program spaces, we really feel like our CTC requests could, the wait list could go away, and we'd get all the students into programs that they're choosing to be in. So as I go through, I only have a few more slides. I just want to make sure that I'm pausing a little bit, both to answer questions related to what I'm talking about now, but even the program development pieces from the designs. First questions you had from that.
You may get to this, so I was trying to, do you know approximately, Dan, you may know this, how many students do we have at CTC?
35.
35. Do we have any kids on the wait list?
You do.
Yes, we do. They're there in other programs. Correct.
The students that are on the wait list.
Are they sitting here?
No, so you have students on a wait list that did not get into another program. Some students do indicate a second choice, a second option. And we work with that. And quite honestly, I mean, I'll tell you, there's students who, they go down the list and they just start naming programs. And I'm like, well, what are you really interested in? Because we are limited in space. So we want to make sure the students make an informed decision, not just saying, I want to, get out of the high school. But you do have students who are on a wait list for a program that's filled up that did not choose a second one.
All the superintendents had indicated that they've done that they would see growth in those numbers. It will. Can't specifically say what they would be, but that's kind of how everybody came around at those 2 programs that they've done. Big program.
So I will send out specifics on Montour's enrollment and wait list.
The other piece, just to kind of bring back, in terms of the need for expansion or the need for renovation, and I referenced this in the spring. The state has come in, they come in cyclically and do reviews of our programs and our spaces. This happened in 2022, a few months after I arrived. And then again in 2024, another group came from the state. Both times, they cited and made recommendations at that point that we needed to address our class sizes and our facility size in terms of, how many students. So essentially they were seeing classes that were probably too full than what they should have been, and that we're starting to kind of question or create, like, how safe is the environment? also touching on the needs and, renovate and improve not just the spaces, but the equipment. So some of that we're able to do through grants currently with the equipment, but space is space, and we are limited to where we're at. So I pulled some numbers together. There's some literature out there from Threaton about technical programs and what recommended spaces should look like. So if you take the programs that we have, and his literature will break it down to the specific program, the number of students, and then how much square footage would be required for those spaces. So that's where I get, 20,079 is what we currently have based on the number of students in our classes. But if you would take his recommendations, we're about 5,000 square feet less than the recommendation. So as a comparison, just what the renovation and expansion could do. You saw on the slide that dark red would be the addition on the side of the main LICO building with early childhood, culinary, and automotive gaining space of 4,900. And then the spaces in the high school that you saw there, they would also be able to increase at about 2,200 square feet. So we would hit more of what we would be recommended at currently, and also have room for additional students to come in. Moving to the workforce projections, there was a chart in the spring. I'm just going to come back to a couple. I went in, looked more specifically at types of occupations within that career cluster with diesel and welding. And again, looking across the state at projections and also regionally, you can see it's really healthy outlook right now that the jobs are out there for students. And I like the MJ, OJT, a lot of letters. Basically, that means we could have students come to us for 3 years. They get a skill set. They're able to get a job that would train them on the job training without having to go on to continue, their education and take on college debt or anything like that. They would get trained. They would make a living wage right there. And then looking at the annual demand, so I just went in, I found welders and the diesel technician. And then there's a category that would fall, within that diesel program related to farm equipment mechanics. And I think, several of our districts, have a high interest in agriculture and farm and what it would take to help that industry. And you can see the numbers there regionally and across the state. Related to, having students that are leaving high school with a skill set and ready to make an impact in the region and your workforce and your communities, there's that opportunity that students are looking for in high school. And they're looking for something that is different. And students come to us, they leave, they've explored their career options, they're getting work-based learning experiences in co-op. You've seen those numbers. Several of our students are working their senior year, related to their program of study. The earning credentials, just threw up there, the state inspections won. We got students at UPMC. It's a really exciting time to be in career and technical ed, and students are starting to take advantage of it. Just to kind of, finish up my piece, I believe this is my last slide or two, is, we are looking at an investment to make with our students. And every student that comes to LICO currently, you see the numbers in front of you, how much it costs per student. There is certainly an investment, have a student there for 3 years, but these students that you see, and I just put their names up, they've graduated, they're working in your community, in your school district, and they're returning and they're living and paying taxes in your district. And what else could we ask for than that? So this is just some of the students that I was able to find as we're trying to connect with our alumni to see how we can partner with them. Any questions for me before I turn it over to Dr. Skaluba? I'll do the clicking. Sure. Okay. I'll drive.
Okay, we are working hard to try to reduce the cost the best that we possibly can. We have the Redevelopment Assistant Capital Program, RACP application submitted. We are hopeful that we're going to hear something. My understanding is that the legislature may return sometime in the middle of this month and may start to make some of those announcements. So we're hopeful that we're going to hear some of those announcements. I just know Shapiro announced one of the grants yesterday for, I think, the environmental grant. So I'm hopeful there's going to be a round of announcements here, and we'll see what happens. With that grant too, if we do get funds and we don't get all the funds, we can always decide to apply for a second round of funding if everybody was on board with that. but right now we're still currently waiting. So when I do ask you for a motion, I'm not going to ask you to pass a motion or to consider a motion until November. You can do it earlier if you want, but I want you to have as much time and as much information as we possibly can. So hopefully we hear an announcement at that point in time, and if we're fortunate to be able to get something, then that may make the decision a little bit easier when it comes time to making that decision. The second one is COVID-19 Multi-Purpose Community Facilities Program through the PA Broadband Authority application. That's a mouthful. That is a grant that we did just to try to cover the cost of the design development, schematic design, construction documents. We expect to hear by the end of September as well. So again, as soon as I know something, the superintendents will know something and you will know something. Whether that's good news or bad news, I will make sure that information gets shared so that you have that information. And then the last one, I was waiting to hear back from the commissioners related to potential Act 13 application. I finally did hear back from the commissioners. They did give me a form to be able to fill out for those Act 13 funds. We do plan to submit an application, but I believe we're going to work together with couple other superintendents to try to meet with the commissioners to kind of just get even though there's no amount you can apply for, like, and there, we kind of want to get an idea, like, we don't want to ask for too much, but we also don't want to ask for not enough. So we kind of want to get an idea as to, you know, if we were to apply for those Act 13 funds, what would be the right amount? So we will make an application for that to be able to try to get those funds as well. We did meet at Muncie School District with about 10 members of our occupational local advisory committee. During that meeting, we showed them a general idea of what the program, what we're going to do. And we kind of asked for feedback. And then we kind of asked, like, do you feel as if, you know, there could be support for this from the local businesses? And we left that meeting feeling pretty good. We had one business come up and say, you know, if you needed some equipment for diesel, you know, something that we might consider. We've also been talking with Jason Fink, who's the president of the Lycoming County Chamber of Commerce. And he's put me in touch with one or two individuals that we're trying to connect with to see if there's a place to be able to go there. So what I did ask of Murata and Maine is I did ask them to break down the costs by program. Because if we're going to go out to try to solicit funds, then we're going to want to target those funds based off of the programs. So if we know diesel costs 2.5 million, then let's go after people that support diesel and see if we can get that. If we know nursing costs 3 million, let's go after UPMC and Geisinger and see if there's any way that they would support those to be able to possibly do that. So we're looking at those programs. And then I did talk to East Lycoming School District about would they allow us to do sponsorships in that building? And the answer was yes. The answer was we could possibly do small sponsorships where they get recognized with the plaque in some way, shape, or form. We could do program sponsorships where it would be named after, you know, it could be Blaze Alexander's Automotive, okay? Or we could do building sponsorships to be able to do that. So we're working through that right now to be able to get letters out to vendors to be able to see, okay, can we get any other financial support besides the grant applications? So I understand I don't have answers for you today about any of that, but it's not going to be because we didn't try every possible avenue to be able to offset costs to be able to go there. And as soon as we hear something, you will know something as well. So any questions on that? Okay. Yep.
I know the part of the nursing and health program for the girls are coming out with certified nurses aid certificates. Have you thought about asking local nursing homes for funding? Because they're going to benefit from those girls coming out of the program.
Yeah.
Or the companies that own the local nursing homes.
Right. Great idea. We would try to brainstorm as many people as we can to include in that, not just the local hospitals, but that would be a great idea as well to be able to do that. I know every district has like a vendor list of vendors that they specifically use too. So we'd be looking at those vendor lists as well to say, okay, well, listen, you're currently getting funding from all of our districts right now for X, Y, or Z. How about considering giving back to our districts to be able to do that as well? So we're in the very early stages, but that's a great idea, and we'll certainly look into it and try to target as many vendors as possible to offset as many expenses as possible. So financing cost, the rate in January when we came was 15-year at 3.48%. And the rate for August right now is 15-year at 3.7%. Certainly, it looks like the Fed is going to cut at least somewhat in the next month or so. So hopefully those rates kind of go back down and we'll be able to take a look at that then. But those are kind of where the rates are. We did go with 15 years because that's the least amount of money. If you went with 20 years or 25 years, it makes it a little bit easier on the budget impact, but it doesn't make it it makes it more expensive overall for the long-term cost of the project. So we went with 15 years to be able to reduce the total amount. So this is the answer to the question, divided among 6 districts. There are the 6 districts. There is the 15-year term as it is today, with about 11,858 in year 1. And I'm not going to read down all of those, but it's about 75,000 every year after that to be able to do that. I am going to send this presentation to your superintendent tomorrow, so to be able to send out. I'm also going to send with that the design development link. So we gave you a very shortened version tonight to try to keep it so we didn't have you here all night. But if you want to see all the drawings, we have them all and you can certainly see them. So I'm going to send that tomorrow as a follow-up, and then he can send that out to you at that particular point in time. So, but the total there, I think, comes to about 1,128,146 if my eyesight with my glasses from that distance is correct. So one thing that we considered was, what slide is next? Yeah, I think those slides got mixed up. Go to the next slide first and then we'll back up. So one of the things that we had to do with East Lycoming is to kind of try to renegotiate some of our lease agreements. So what we decided moving forward, we would do 2 things. We would do a bond agreement for the new debt. So that would be just what you saw, a bond agreement that says we're going to pay for 1/6 of that cost over time with East Lycoming. And that document is currently being developed and expected to be approved at the East Lycoming board meeting. So everything I'm going to say is potential because their board has not acted on it yet. It's been a conversation between me and Dr. Stam, and we're just kind of working through that. But he's already had somewhat of conversation with his board, but official approval hasn't been granted yet. But I think we have the structure now. So that bond agreement would address any new borrowings approved in accordance with the Articles of Agreement. It would divide the cost equally between the districts. This is important because I don't know what happened last time, but there would be offset language in that bond agreement that if we borrowed and there was interest made, that would come back to the LICO CTC program and not to East Lycoming. In addition, if we borrow and then rates get better and we refinance, any savings comes back to LICO CTC and not East Lycoming. That way, we're trying to capitalize on as much as possible to be able to save the districts as much as we possibly can. So I don't know what happened before because it was like 20 years ago, but I wanted to make sure that was in there. And then we would ask for a board motion by November because we need direction. Is it go or no go? If it's go, then you kind of seen what the plans are. If it's no go, then we're back to square one and back to the drawing board at that particular point in time. So that motion that would be for consideration would have that contract, you would get it. So part of the reason I'm not asking you to vote to November because I haven't even given you the contract yet to be able to look at. Okay, so I expect to have that by the middle of September. I will then get that to your superintendent to be able to get it out. And then from there, give you time to be able to look at it, review it, ask any questions, etc. On the other side, we're kind of going away from the term lease And we're kind of going away to facilities management agreement is kind of what we're going with. Because one of the big issues that the boards had was, listen, we just paid for this LICO CTC building, but then we're basically going to have to kind of pay for it again because we're going to have to be doing all this lease for the building that we just paid for the last 20 years. So this financial management agreement would cover all spaces old and new. It would do just for the operating costs of the building, not any other costs. So it'd be $449 per square foot to cover the cost of utilities. Now go back one slide for me. So those utilities right there, you can see I had them project a cost per square foot for their entire complex. And then divide that to get me a cost per square foot. And then multiply that by the LICO CTC space to be able to get a cost of $1.21 per square foot just for utilities. You can go forward, please. Yeah. Okay. What was it? Okay. Okay. We're gonna have to go back there. That's out of order, but we'll figure that out. That 121 per square foot, you can see right there, there's the cost. I only show that to you because I want you to show we're not pulling numbers out of thin air. We actually went through and we did the calculations. All right, if we go back, $449 per square foot and full-time custodian and building maintenance. So those are the three pieces that would be covered by that $449 a square foot. Now, because East Lycoming is being a good partner in reducing the square foot drastically, they need to kind of offset some of that for in case something goes majorly wrong, like a contingency piece. So there is language in there that if a single incident is over $5,000, then the consortium would share in that cost up to a threshold of $25,000. And then anything over $25,000, we would take a look at. So example of that would be there was a pipe that went bad in between both buildings, right? Now, fortunately, we're going to go after insurance first, then we're going to go after the vendor who put it in. And fortunately, this was a vendor mistake. But if it wasn't, then we would have to assume some of that cost. You can't have the best of both worlds. You can't want to not pay for it again, and then you get the idea. So it's kind of, we need to do both things. But you're going to see in a second how the savings of that formula is going to impact what's there. And then the language for the splitting cost of repairs, we did that one. And then we did move the stipends for the business technology and nursing services to a pay for fee service in 23-24, and that will get carried over. And I'll show that to you in a second. Go back to that slide before again, just so I can make sure I hit that. They already showed kind of some of what those project costs were. And then GSL fee and construction management are a couple other things that we consider. And that slide is not in the wrong spot. I was just ahead of myself. So next one. So if you look on the right there, when we took in 22-23, we were paying stipends. We paid $48,801. But this year we paid fee for service. For those three services, we paid $14,710. Total savings of $34,091. If you move to the next slide. The new bond lease agreement or the facility in 2006 to 2026, the current lease, we asked East Lycoming to negotiate it. We had a 2-year window to be able to get out of it. So that's why we were negotiating. If we kept that lease the way that it was and didn't exercise that, we would have been, you have the quarterly payments, and then you would have been paying that same square footage for all new space. And I'm going to show you why that's important in a second, which is $449 per square foot times the number of sessions. Because they've already paid off the bond for LICO CTC, I asked them, would you waive next year? Would you waive next year's $38,577 to be able to make this a little more palatable for our districts? And I believe it will be a yes, but it has to be voted on at that point in time. So what I did there is if you have a 2-year bond payment total for those first 2 years is 86,473. If that 38,577 is waived and you put that aside, and you continue to put that same amount aside because you've been paying it for however many of the last years, then the total of that comes to $77,154. So the difference for the first 2 years is $9,319. So it makes those first 2 years, as we would be going into it, a lot more manageable than if it was just that $75,000. And then for year 3 and beyond, if you continue to hold that, what we've been paying, it'd be $35,998 for year 3 through 15, which is a little better than the 75. And then I'm going to show you the new formula right now, 449 per square foot. Before I do that, though, one of the things that has happened is the CTC subsidy increase. The governor has a huge priority for CTCs and just passed a huge increase. Now, for you, that increase is about $4,243. But if you take that off of the 2-year bond total, it would only be $5,000 you're looking at over the first 2 years. And if you hold that money that you're currently paying for the quarterly payments, in year 3 and beyond, it would be $31,740. I expect this number to increase. I expect that if the welding programs and diesel programs add more Montoursville students, your number is going to increase because you're sending more students to LICO CTC as well. Next slide. So the formula comparison. On the left is the new formula. So for the current Hughesville High School space and Ascar Elementary space, it would be $48,043. What we're currently paying under the old formula should be $237.23. East Lycoming has an error on the number of sessions for a couple of our programs. So we're actually only paying $116,560. So it's a savings of $68,517 if we go to this new formula. And then if we apply that to the LICO CTC building, it's a savings of $73,815.60. And if we get that far and apply that to phase 2 and phase 3, it's a savings of $64,206.65. It's important. If we didn't renegotiate that lease, we would have been locked into multiplying by the number of sessions. But by renegotiating the lease, we see those savings across the board. Next slide. So one of the questions was the projected budget. So we're going to add 2 programs. We're going to add 2 teachers. We're going to add supplies. We're going to increase rent a little bit. So the tuition's going to go crazy. But it's really not, because currently we're sitting at 341 and we're basing our budget off of 290. Well, at 341, you can base your budget off of 325. And so that's going to help keep that cost per tuition student down to a very minimal, as you can see, probably $100 to $200 increase a year based off of 3% salary, 10% health insurance and retirement if those numbers hold. And if it expands the way that it should expand, you're going to be able to base that budget off of maybe 350, maybe 375. And remember, that's the number that you get charged, but at the end of the year, any leftover gets refunded back. So that's not the actual number that you're paying. That number is going to be less after you get whatever money is brought back to the district there. So the concern about the costs going exponentially high, I think will be offset by being able to use a different number and basing the budget off of 325 rather than 290. And if it continues to grow, even higher. So in summary, if you save on the waiver for this year, for next year, if you save on the formula savings, If you save on the stipend savings, it's a total potential savings of $279,207.25. So I really see East Lycoming, like I said last time, we're married, like OCTC and East Lycoming. I really see them trying to make the marriage work because they're trying to show like, okay, we understand 20 years ago that lease may not have been in favor of the districts, but we are trying to move forward and show you that we're going to do something where they're not making profit off of FICO CTC and really want to see it succeed. So the questions from the prior meetings, the main themes was proration based on students. I know this isn't the answer to your want. That is not the formula that we're doing. We're dividing it equally. But what we did is we limited the borrowing. The borrowing, we're not asking for more than a $5 million borrowing. So yes, we didn't do the proration, but we limited the borrowing to $5 million. The lease revisions I just shared with you, all of those potential savings, and the future budgeting costs I just shared with you should be offset by increases in enrollment. Next slide. This is the timeline again, and I only bring the timeline up because if we miss this window, there is no chance to build welding and diesel ever again on Lyco CTC campus. We did that in the first feasibility study, and those expenses were ridiculously crazy and nobody wanted to touch them. So we have to do this at the same time as East Lycoming is building the bleachers. So that is the reason that all the superintendents, and I'm coming to you today, that we're prioritizing phase one. That is the one that we want to get done because we will not have another chance to do that if this window passes us by. And then the board motion that we were looking for is to recommend approval of a bond agreement with East Lycoming School District for the repayment of 1/6 of the total cost of a bond in an amount not to exceed $5 million plus interest over a 15-year period for the improvement of facilities at Lycoming Career and Technology Center. That will come with a bond agreement that I will send once East Lycoming approves it. And here is, if we get announced that we get all $5 million from the grant application, we would then still borrow $5 million. That would give us $10 million, and then we would do phases 1 and 2 at the same time. If we get less than $5 million reward, we're probably only going forward with phase 1. And we're going to lower the amount to whatever we need to be able to kind of accomplish that. So if we get $2.5 million, then we're going to borrow $2.5 million to be able to get up to that $5 million that we need to accomplish phase 1. $5 million is the maximum, but it could be less depending on the award that we get. At one point in time, I thought we might be able to get both phase 1 and phase 2 done if we got $3 or $4 million, but you could see from the cost that that's not going to happen. And then next slide. Questions? Comments?
So I appreciate everything. I mean, you explained it all very, very well. And it seems that you put a lot of time into figuring all this out for us, and I really appreciate that. I think, like the frustration is, it's always with the state because they come in and they're like, well, we're just not kind of happy with, things being, too small and, too many people in your classes. And then we sit back and we hope for an award, and the state is the one that wants us to educate them. So it's just, that part's frustrating because it puts everyone, in a rock and a hard place. They want you to do these things, but the cash is always limited and they're always telling you what you're allowed to do with it, so anyways, but I appreciate everything you're doing. I mean, that's just always the frustration on the other side of it, but I really see the hard work you're doing and a lot of time and a lot of effort and the fundraising. I mean, fundraising is not easy and it seems like you're trying to cover every base and that's not going unnoticed as we're listening up here.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have answers for you today on that, but that's why I also put time in between the decision to see, hopefully we do
Oh,
get some
yeah, it's
answers.
Just a constant rock in a hard place. you
And-
know,
and
you're all
even
left
if-
with Nothing.
Even if you borrow, I'm still gonna work to be able to reduce those costs.
Yeah,
o-
no,
you know,
I
over time.
hear that and I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Other questions?
What was the RACP grant ask that you guys made?
5 million.
5 million.
Yeah, because you have to match and we didn't want to spend more than 5, so that's how we had to do that.
And I hope that warm fuzzy spot, in the governor's heart for CTCs, is very gracious.
That's what we're hoping for as well.
Yeah.
So that's divided between the 6, so you're looking at about 840,000 from each district. Correct.
Well, all in with interest, it's that 1.1. But there's that number on that slide.
Oh, that one went really fast, that's why I didn't see.
1.128.
Okay. And. Okay,
And again, I'll send this tomorrow so that it can be sent out. And you probably even
and
have
do
it.
you have a breakdown of enrollment per district? And I know you didn't go with enrollment, but we're at 35 and I just did quick math. If you look at 6 districts and there's like 60 kids, which is close to double. So, I mean, we're a smaller school district
I
and
mean-
we're paying similarly to some of the larger school districts with a less enrollment. So I guess I have a little problem with it. I'm just saying it out loud. I think it's an awesome program. So that is not a reflection of that at all.
So I'm sticking to that because that's what's in the articles of agreement that everybody has approved. That's the way that it's set up in the articles of agreement. In terms of numbers, Nate can correct me, but I believe Loyalsock, Montoursville, Benton are probably all between 30, 40. And then Muncie and East Lycoming are probably 85 to 95 or 80 to 90. And then always missing one. Warrior Run's probably 60. And again, I know that's not the answer that you want,
No.
And-
really.
yeah,
No
but-
offense. I think it's a great program.
but
It is.
what we did is we said, okay, limit the borrowing. So that would be that. And you're not the only one that I'm giving the answer to that they don't want.
No,
But
listen,
I'm gonna be,
I'm used to that. I don't.
yep,
okay.
but I'm gonna be direct and I'm gonna tell you like it is because that's what
I gotcha.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? We thank you so much for your time. I hope you all have a wonderful evening and a short meeting.
We will bring this for the further discussion at the work session in September, so hold on to your papers there and.
I'll have to zoom. I'm gonna be in New Jersey.
Hmm?
I'm gonna be in New Jersey. I may zoom in very quickly.
All right, we'll now move on to the reading of the minutes. This is approval of the regular meeting minutes, August 13th, 2024, and the work session minutes from August 27th, 2024.
Move to approve. Second.
Any comments, questions? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed. All right, prior presentation period, we have Pastor Larry Leland here from the Faith United Methodist Church.
Again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be as one of the pastors in this community to remind you all that on a regular basis, we pray not only for you as a school board, we pray for our administration, we pray for our faculty and staff, and we pray for our students, particularly in a season like this, when once again in our nation, a school district has experienced incredible pain and tragedy in the form of violence. And you having deeply difficult and important and faithful work that you do on a regular basis. And so it's important for us to know that we pray for you all. James 1:5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Please just know that on a regular basis, we pray for God to give you the wisdom to do the work that has been placed before you. And we thank God for the gift of who each and every one of you are. When we agree and when we disagree, when we're finding our way forward, just know that the community and the congregations of this community in particular, thank you for your work. Thanks.
Sure.
That's what I would, while he's here, part of my typical report, I'm gonna jump ahead real quick before he leaves at some point. You know, for the last 16 years, Faith Church has sponsored kindergarten camp. You know, it started off as, and this started on Pastor Larry's first tenure as a pastor, and he got to start with this congregation, more of a, you know, during some of their, fundraising campaign, they picked special projects, and then it has meant so much, I know, to that congregation, but of course to us, you know, the special work with the elementary division, they make it part of their budget. To help, you know, they pay a major portion of the expenses for that. I can't tell you, and our kindergarten teachers can tell you, and I know I relayed that to them, and the impact it makes, you know, for those students who've never been in a school setting or have anxiety issues, or just reduces that anxiety starting in kindergarten. It makes a tremendous difference after that the congregation. Again, I can't tell you the impact, you know, it makes them smile on the kids when they come in, they're relaxed that first couple of weeks of school, and especially reduces the anxiety of the parents too, who are nervous of it. Thank you as well. This is very small, we can remind everybody that it's the.
That's great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the public comment portion of the agenda. This is for residents and taxpayers to comment on matters of concern, official action, deliberation for the body of community. Unpause minutes.
Ron Snell, Lower Manor Road. I just want to say, Mrs. Meyer brought up a good point that a school district our size and the amount of students we're sending to Lyco CTC being less, about half of what the bigger schools are sending, and we're spending going to be spending the same amount of money for improvements and renovations and buildings down there. We didn't have a chance because the Lyco CTC board voted to make it equal for every district. And of course, Mentorsville and the one or two other smaller districts might have voted against what they're doing. But those bigger schools saw a benefit because they're sending twice as many students there. So what I'd like to know is, we have kids on the waiting list, yet those other schools have twice as many kids there as we do. Why? That doesn't make sense to me. If each school's contributing the same amount of money for this project, then each school should be able to have the same amount of kids in that programs.
Hello. Hello. My name is Jack Dietrich, and I'm a senior here at the high school, and I'd like to just talk about, I believe it's agenda item number 11, the upcoming, I believe it's the reading of the electronic devices ban. I'd just like to say that I have been at the school for, this is my 4th year now, and I see this, I've read the upcoming ban, and I just think it's completely unnecessary. 2 years ago, the district purchased phone pouches that go in each of the teachers' rooms. Now, I've talked with multiple teachers, and they have said that when these phone pouches were distributed, it was told to them that it was a suggestion that their students put them in, and it was no way required or mandatory. This has unfortunately led to a few number of problems regarding the cell phones with some social media sites and other just unorderly uses of them. My proposal for this, instead of doing a blanket ban on any non-district electronic, would be simply to have the administration enforce that policy on the teachers fully. I have been in classrooms where the teachers have actually enforced it and didn't take it as a suggestion, and it has worked beautifully. Specifically, one of my history classes, first week of sophomore year, a student had his phone out. The teacher then confiscated it and said not to let it happen again. The next week it happened again, and the student was sent down to the office. There has never been another cell phone related incident in that class since that second week of my sophomore year. I just believe that a blanket ban creates more negatives than it does positives. As I've read and understand, there are certain exceptions, but the main thing comes down to a signature by either of the principals of the school to approve it for any non-specifically specified ones. I am the editor-in-chief of the Arrowhead Online for the past 2 years now. We use our phones exclusively to do our job, whether it's recording an interview, whether it's audio or video, taking pictures, because the journalism department only has 3 cameras available for use, and we have a staff of around 20. The phone ban, although it allows for exceptions for educational purposes, could severely inhibit our workflow and our goal of posting. The website posts something every single day, and the broadcast side posts 2 things a week, both on separate platforms. The ban, although it does call for the exception, like I've said, will severely inhibit our workflow. So that's why I'm suggesting just enforce the policy that came up 2 years ago, hold the teachers accountable for this policy, because the blanket ban creates entirely more negatives than it does positives. Thank you.
Hi, Dave Boyle, Evergreen Terrace, father of 3 tremendous kids in the district and a couple good nephews. One of them being right there. I had no idea that they were coming today, but he hit some great points. Let me start out with, well, this is about the cell phone policy. I agree that cell phones should be restricted and they are a distraction. There's lots of studies been done about them being detrimental to teen development. However, the proposed policy is not the way to fix that. Like it or not, these tools have become ubiquitous in life, and they can be a tool for good. But you don't teach people how to make good decisions by taking away their ability to make any decisions. The policy seems like an attempt to turn back time rather than deal with the current reality of the 21st century and the lives that our kids have grown up with over the last couple of years. They've become accustomed to them. This is just part of what they're going to have to deal with now and after they've moved on. So I'd advise, much like what Jack just said, enforce the ability for teachers to insist that students put the phones in the pouches. And if they don't follow those rules, deal with those behaviors. Don't make all kids, don't punish all good kids for the behaviors of some. And unfortunately, the incident that Pastor Larry just mentioned, that's something we probably have to consider too. No one likes the fact that this is a reality in our lives, but it's unfortunate. And there are reports that, those kids in those schools were able to communicate in real time about real threats, and kids were probably saved. So although it's very unlikely it's going to happen, there's no reason that, this can't be accomplished by just simply insisting on putting the phones in the pouches, letting the kids be kids whenever it's between classes, but just, being able to get distraction out of the classrooms. Thanks.
All right, seeing no one else in the room, we will go to Zoom. If anyone on has a comment, please raise your hand. All right, no hands raised. Moving on to the business manager report.
You've received copies of the treasurer's reports for the period ending August 31st, 2024 for the general fund and cafeteria fund. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval.
Take motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
There are no budgetary transfers or anything right now, so we move on to the presentation of the bills. You've received copies of the listing of invoices for the general fund and cafeteria fund for the period ending September 10th, 2024. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval and payment.
Right, take a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions?
And I'm sorry, I usually try to be very good about getting this beforehand, but it's been a little crazy, so I just noticed. I just had one question. It was for Marco. It's the one for the 3 copiers at 18,000. It said something about a contract in there and I wasn't. Yes, I am. It says, so it's 3 brand new copiers for 18,500.
We have, about 12 copiers of the district.
Okay.
And we replace 3 of those.
Do we budget for that? Yeah. Okay. That was it. It was a big number for copiers. No, I know they're not. I just didn't know if we had budgeted it or if that was coming out. Thank you, Sebastian. And that's all I got.
Okay, roll call vote.
Mr. Albert?
Yes.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Yes.
Mr. Gardner?
Yeah.
Mr. Hausnick?
Yes.
Ms. McCoy?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Overhunt?
Yes.
And that's all I have for you this evening.
All right, thank you. All right, superintendent's report. We'll do that by going around the room. We'll start over here on this side today. Mr. Johnson.
I'll grab a couple and then I'll this is why to share as well. So we've got a couple of high schools up and running. Schedule changes are done for the upperclassmen, according to a couple freshmen in there. I found for three of them, number the great job working through all the students. So we're in the swing of things. Lots of fall sports underway, going strong right now. May careers is in their second week. Tomorrow, I'm up with that singer, and that's a really good group, and they're very excited, and they came back with smiles for their one, so it's great. We'll see if we can keep that on the case, so they continue. Note for this as well as volleyball club, we'll be starting out this information meeting on Monday at 5 p.m. here in the cafeteria for Tom. We'll send some information up to 7th and 12th grade folks today that would be interested in that. And then a couple cool things that are happening. My son college is hosting a college night on 9/17. So we sent that out, as well as 2 financial aid nights here for families and students that are interested in exploring how financial aid works. And all those components, one is November 12th, and the other one is December 12th, Lock Haven and college.
All right, Sebastian. All right, Mrs. Albert.
Yeah, I have some super cool news. So Subaru loves to learn about the classroom. They donate to schools every year. Alexander Subaru chose Nepal this year. We chose the first time selected 15 teachers to receive a box of supplies that were donated, as well as they each got some money through Adopt a Classroom to buy additional supplies. So it's $7,500 plus dollars that was donated to those 15 teachers. And then additionally, the staff at Alexander Subaru raised money themselves, almost $300 more to give to us that we'll be putting towards our PBS rewards. That's just some super cool things and feel good. We have Builders Club induction coming up. And we also, fall sports are underway, and we had 80 kiddos show up for 5th grade beginner band. 136 kids. So all are a little noisy that period. But we're excited to see the difference when the first concert rolls around in front of him.
Holy cow.
How he plays like the first practice or the first class for the parents that night, and then just to see how much they've grown in just a few months. It's super cool.
You would think at the beginning, like, they're doing operations on feeder lines. And then there's like beautiful music by the time the holidays come around.
I love seeing the kiddos are like this big and their instruments like, they can't even hardly drag it around, but.
That's exciting. It's a lot of kids. All right, Mr. Nafo. All right, Mr. Blade.
Yeah, so it's still relatively quiet in the valley. We, picture day is, picture day is, we're coming up here on the 18th of September. I walked on schedule at high school, on the 27th, so all the respect to that, we've done fundraise. Really, honestly, people are just getting, like, starting to feel comfortable with the routines, the rituals, all our classrooms. I mean, I know before school started, I always had a big fear about that too, about the vacancy, about what's gonna happen, and that's something to go on, but it's just nice when everybody comes to work, everything's cooking and everything's on the community, so I'm just happy to be before that all going well.
You said it twice.
One more time, it's like Beetlejuice.
It's like
man.
Beetlejuice, I was just gonna say that.
I think the big wood's gonna.
You may want to stop there.
Everything's great.
Oh. All right, Mrs. Wise.
We've had a smooth start for the first 3 weeks, in addition to that. Today was picture day at the high school, hopefully Mr. Badger, your son, can give you the horn.
They actually, they gave it to me this time. Thank you.
One of the big things, with me being new and Mr. Jones and I implementing some new procedures this year, the teachers, we really have to extend a big thank you to them for really helping us roll out the start of the school year and implementing new procedures and using them. It's been a really good start. The Tourisville Fall Festival is coming up Friday, September 20th and Saturday, the 21st. If you aren't familiar with this, they open it up to nonprofits, which are many of the clubs here at school, and it becomes one of the major fundraisers. You know, if you've been around here a while, you know Mont Trial is near and dear to my heart, and for them, that's how they make money, the harvesting deal. So if you have a chance to come out, please do, buy stuff, support them. We've implemented a theme for the year here at the high school, which is we try, we fail, and we learn together. So we're trying some new things. If our first attempt at learning doesn't work out on that, then we will learn how to fix it together. And then, homecoming is coming up October 4th. The parade will be right before. Football game that night is for Central Mountain, and then the homecoming dance is the next night on the 5th. PSATs are being administered October 10th here at the high school. If you had a chance to see the football game, you hopefully saw the band. They're both looking pretty good this year, and the band sounds fantastic. So, and the last thing, with tomorrow being September 11th, here at the high school, we observed several moments of silence throughout the day in honor of those who lost their lives. So that we will be continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Mott.
Okay, we can start with, we've had a great start with school. So, we have, every year we do a kickoff assembly and, we set expectations for kids and so forth. So, that was a lot of fun. We had kids that, last year, the fundraisers weren't able to put a pie in the face of their team. So we kind of incorporated that this year. So three of our top raising students from the fundraiser from last year were able to do that. So that was a lot of fun. So we created expectations for the school year, our positive behavior intervention support plan. Many of you, please support our PTO. Last year, all 4 grade levels went on field trips. We want to again do that. And I know Ms. Meyer, you're gonna buy one of those.
If anyone wants one, I'm selling them. There's 2 kids in middle
Get
school.
information out for that. They're really cool there. And also we are going to have a Cherrydale fundraiser. We made a little over $9,000 last year, but paid for a couple of the field trips. So our PTO is very strong. We thank them for all the support.
Yeah, so we're excited about the field trip. We're doing some diagnostic testing right now with iReady and MAP, just to get a clear idea where our students are, to really drive our instruction, for the rest of the year. So, lots going on. The new staff are doing fantastic. So excited about the rest of September and into fall. Thank you. Mr. Peralta.
Well, as a senior administrator, I'll give my colleagues some lessons here on, we're excited to have the children back. That's our show of the year.
That's how you do it safely.
No, again, it's great to have kids back in the building. It's the life of the building. It's, you know, the administrators tell you, it gets kind of dead in the hallways in the summertime, so it's glad to have them back, see their smiling face and see them learning new things. Our picture day is coming up on the 19th of September. Glad to work with GoPhoto again. They're great stewards to work with three of our schools and do a fantastic job. October 4th is our fire safety. Again, thanks to the first responders and the work they do to teach our kids about fire prevention, but more so fire safety. And there's a great lesson with the fire hall. That is also homecoming, as Mrs. Wise said. It's also our food truck night. So before the parade, after the parade, we go to the Walnut Street parking lot, get some food from one of the food trucks that supports our PTO and supports some local vendors. October 10th is our walkathon. Sorry about the PSATs. I apologize now. The music is blaring. So, but no, but I'm on the other side of the bill. But no, we'll be, earning pledges, we're raising funds for our PTO to support our kids and programs and activities. They've always done a great job. With that, I'll share one last thing. We're doing a new initiative one of the parents brought up. They found an organization that will, if you collect gently used, gently worn, or even brand new shoes, they donate them. They pay us by the pound that we collect, and then this company gives money back to our PTO to sponsor our kids again. But then they refurbish those shoes the best they can and take them to less fortunate areas, third world countries, what have you, and support the causes there. So if you have gently used shoes, you can drop them off to school. You can come to the food truck night, drop them off there, take them all the way up to October 18th. So, but again, we're excited to have kids back. Excited for the successful start they've had this year. So. Thank you so much.
Who's the DJ for the walkathon now that
Mr. Silla.
Is he still
comes
coming back to do it?
He does.
That's nice.
He's
He's still on our
gone, but
list.
not forgotten.
He's fun. He was always so fun.
It's great.
He has his business he does now, but he works for our PTOs, both buildings, and he sets that day aside.
He's a gym teacher. He's got to be on his game. Well, he was.
Listen, and he makes the kids jewelry too.
All right, Mr. Turman.
Yeah, Mr. Hanner wanted you to know that he held a paraprofessional in service in August on job roles and responsibilities. The paraprofessionals enjoyed coming together as a group and learning about the job together. He's planning on offering more in-service trainings on confidentiality, de-escalation strategies, and how to deal with challenging behaviors. He also received a nice Christmas present this year from the Department of Ed. He will be under cyclical monitoring. That's scheduled every 6 years. It begins the week of December 16th.
Oh, gosh.
The activities are to determine compliance related to federal requirements, including the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that are known as IDEA, and state laws to assist LEAs in resolving specific issues or concerns that impact services and outcomes for students with disabilities. It will involve reviewing 10 student files. I saw we had those 10 names selected, student, parent, and teacher interviews, an educational benefit review, classroom observations, a facilitated self-assessment review, and a variety of data submissions. This is all done in a total of a 2-week process, submitting different data online and on-site teacher interviews, observations, and evaluations of their special ed paperwork. So it begins December 16th. It's a 2-week process. Merry Christmas to Mr. Hannon. I'm glad to hear that everyone's having such a great start to the school year. It has been an interesting start to the school year at our level. Feels like body blow after body blow, but we are managing and taking those on. And that means I'm doing okay if they're having a good experience. But With that said, I will be available Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, since you all jinxed yourself tonight, except for Mr. Farrar. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Great updates. Appreciate it. All right, general agenda items for the evening. I'd like to combine 7.1 through 7.4. Take a moment, and look at those. And then I will take a motion to approve. All right, when you're ready, I'll take the motion to approve.
You said 7-1 through 7-4. Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah. Motion to approve.
Second. Questions, comments? Sir.
Two questions. Okay, one question is for 7.1. Does the music department submit all theirs at the same time, and were all these, because there's actually like $8,000 worth of field trips all in total for the district? Are they all budgeted? And then does it come out of the music department budget? Because it's mostly band, choral, so I'm assuming it falls under music, but in total, it's about $8,000 worth of trips.
These are estimates, correct? Because they don't, kids have to audition and qualify. That should be the max, and I don't know.
Yeah, when they get in, we do to a degree, but they're, what's proposed, we rarely actually ever, because once you get into the MEA.
Right.
Through, but they do submit pretty much everything all at once to get it out there.
Okay.
So I would anticipate.
Okay, and is that, when they have their budget for the music department, is this above and beyond what's in the music department budget that we're spending on?
We sat, we actually cut a lot out of some of the initial budgets, making some of this for this year. So, it kind of ends up being a wash between what they're looking for. So, yes, it falls within that budget set.
Okay. That's why I just didn't know if we were approving like an extra $8,000 for music.
No.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to make sure before.
No, but if 25 kids
Well, that's,
qualify for the District 8 Chorus Festival at Bloomsburg and they're projecting 10.
Right.
That becomes a problem.
right. Then, and also, I just had one other, the Disney World, is that done through fundraising? That 72,000, that's nothing. Yeah, I thought it wasn't us, but I just didn't like making sure.
That'll be the music booster, so please support the concession stand.
Okay, so then the academic decathlon may fall under that as well, where they estimate 10, but that could be more than 7,000.
That can change as well.
And where does that come out of? What budget does that come out of?
If your building budget is for student activities.
So I do set aside, I have to look at the.
Okay,
But yeah, they were.
okay.
One thing at a middle school, we do try to, if you notice some of the students, we try to utilize the bands as much as possible. So
Right.
it is a huge impact on. But I do know Mr. Morgan, we try to give us that information early so we can.
All right, hearing no other questions. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Right. Personnel section, again, I'd like to combine 8.1 through 8.4. Yes, ma'am.
Motion to approve?
One second.
Thank you. Any questions?
I guess I have one along the line of what Sharon had raised on the field trips. The money for the stipend, has that already been budgeted into the budget or does that come out of?
It's in the budget.
I had a question. Do they raise the stipends yearly or have they been fixed with those?
They've been fixed for many years.
Okay.
Can't tell you exactly. As long as I've been here, so.
Yeah, I just saw like Ethan Showers, he's new, right? The position. But I just wondered if, they raised it when they add someone new.
What else increased was the state requires for brand new teachers 2 years of induction and a mentor now. Where we've only provided one in the past, so another unfunded mandate from the state passed down to us where we have to supply 2 years of a mentor now.
Okay.
So the second year, the stipend goes down, is what I'm assuming, because I just noticed year 1 of 2 is 750, year 2 of 2 is
Yes.
200, that's what I thought, okay. It's less supervision. I'm assuming.
Yep.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right, transportation 9.1, approval of the following addition to the school bus substitute aid list for the 2024-2025 school year.
Motion to approve.
Second. Questions? All right, all in favor, say aye. All opposed. Academics, approval for a waiver of tuition granted to student 240910, grade 12, for the remainder of the 2024-2025 school year.
Motion to approve.
Second. Questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Policies, approval of the first reading of policy 237 for electronic devices.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Questions, comments?
I'm gonna comment because I always know what it's like to sit out there and come up to the podium and feel like you're not heard. So I want to let you know that I do hear you. I do understand what you're saying about the newspaper and that type of using that technology, and I get that. When we're looking at the electronic devices, and I know we talk about responsibility and we talk about, having the kids, grow up, and I don't want anyone to think that this is going backwards. And that we're trying to revert to like some dark age. But at some point, communication also is verbalization. And if you're giving them back in between in those hallways and in those times where kids can talk to each other and communicate and verbalize with each other, instead of having their head down and worrying about their Snapchat or worrying about taking a picture in between classes and not focusing maybe on that test they're taking in the next period. It's a distraction. It's not taking away their technology. They can learn to be responsible with it. And how many ways is it 16 hours that they're not in school? They're in school for 7 or 8 hours. And there's a time where it can be technology free. So I hear you. I do. I get the whole, I didn't think about that part on the cameras and pictures and stuff like that. But in the same token, it's nice to have a conversation and, get to know each other. I want to know, I hear it, that I do understand what you're saying. I know when you come and you talk, that I want you to know that I do hear what you all are saying out there, because I always hated getting up there and just like having no one answer a question back. But, it's a few hours a day. And we're in the building to learn, and I know that's part of it, and I know I'm not trying to date myself, but that's pretty much what. When I'm gonna vote for it, I wanna give you the explanation on why. That I'm gonna probably vote for the electronic well, I am. But I just want you to, I always want to be transparent, you know, I do hear you. And I get it. I have 2 kids in the district that are thrilled with me right now, so I get it. I just want to let you know I heard that.
Then I want to commend you for your courage for coming
Same
up here
here.
and
It takes.
talking. Brought up some excellent points. Thank you. Right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, finances, 12.1, acknowledgement of the following middle school student activity advisors and officers for the 2024-2025 school year.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, committee reports. My wingman is not here this evening, so
I'm gonna have to be second fiddle then.
PSBA, Mrs. Overhunt.
The Supreme Court blocked partial of the final Title IX rule. The Biden administration requested an emergency injunction to allow non-controversial parts of the regulations to move forward in some states with injunctions. The administration asked the High Court last month to decide whether the U.S. Department of Ed could move forward enforcing the undisputed portions. The federal courts have temporarily blocked the Education Department from enforcing the rule in at least 26 states due to the controversial LGBTQ+ protections. The Supreme Court's rejection of the emergency request means the entire rule will be on pause in all states with a temporary injunction while lawsuits challenging the regulations work their way through the courts.
Policy Committee, Mrs. McClure.
I don't have anything except the policy we just.
All right, that's great. Thank you. IU representative,
Well,
Mrs. Meyer.
I got all excited last meeting, and thought we were having that, and handed out the executive summary, so those of you that weren't here, sorry. So we have a meeting next Wednesday. They're off to a good start. I know I send out, if you look at anything, they're hiring within the IU, a few different positions, and I've also been doing some trainings for the paraprofessionals, but I was just hopefully she's not watching. I'll hear about it next week. Like, okay, but that's about it. Because they have another meeting next week, so I'm sure I'll have.
LCTC, Mr. Eisenhower.
Nothing new.
At this time.
You heard it all already.
Memorial Gardens, Mr. House.
Nothing at this time.
All right, budget, Mrs. McCloy.
Nothing.
I'm digging it. All right. Montoursville Foundation. Mr. T, got anything?
Nothing to report.
Whoa. Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Albert.
I'm just gonna keep it rolling.
I like it. Just gonna keep it rolling. Pressure's on, Mr. House, Nick, extracurricular.
Extracurricular, whole lot of stuff going on. The fall sports started out real well. Junior high girls softball's 3-0-1 at this time. And even though this wasn't school related, it's 2 middle school students. Trinity Bell competed in the local and then the regional T-Mobile Home Run Derby, came to the Little League World Series and finished 4th in the country.
It's awesome.
Harley Hagenmeyer did the local pitch hit and run, competed last week at Citi Field in New York. She is the representative of the New York Mets team now, and she will compete in the Major League World Series this year in the 13 and 14-year-old division for pitch hit and run.
Wow.
The cross country team hasn't won a meet yet, but
they compete against like 3 or 4 teams at the same time, so it's a little tough. Girls tennis are 6-2, and they won the Queen of the Court tournament earlier this year. The golf team's 4-2. The girls soccer team's 1, 2, and 2, but they're young, and they've been both one loss was by 1, one loss was by 4. The rest of them they've been in, so they're very competitive. The boys soccer team jumped up. Both the JV and the varsity team are 5-0. The boys soccer team just beat Mifflinburg tonight 5-0 to become 5-0. Football, varsity team's 2-1, JV's 1-0-1, junior high's 2-0. In youth football, the varsity A and JV A teams are both 2-1. They're Mr. Myers kids, 5th and 6th graders. The varsity B is 1-2, and the JV B's 2-1. The flag team's 2-1, the JV flag team's 0-2. They're both the elementary school students. But they're all very competitive, doing well so far. And Mr. Myers, I already ordered a bag.
Did you?
Yeah.
He's got one in his school.
No, my wife.
Jordy.
Yeah. I was against.
I
was
think he's
getting
at most
texts
of the
in here
games.
about-
Yeah, he
He
just
can
goes
take
up
it
there.
to opposing fields even to scout the competition. Just saying.
Yeah, we're doing great so far. Kids are competitive.
That's great. From another extracurricular perspective, it's September, you know what that means?
Christmas.
It's almost Christmas. Oh, happy birthday in September. So the Chamber of Commerce, Montoursville Chamber of Commerce will again be doing the ho-ho holiday decoration contest on Broad Street. So they'll be getting in touch with Mr. Johnson. You did? Outstanding, to get some flex period time to come in and try to round up the troops for that. So like I said in previous times, the goal this year is to go Clark Griswold on Broad Street. So please encourage your folks to come on out and sign up, get your team, and encourage them to go bananas when they decorate. So. All right, safety and security. Mr. Young isn't here. Anybody got anything?
I have nothing except we had an incident last week. I don't know if we want to go into that or not.
No, we're good.
Nothing.
We're going to be applying for our next round of PCCD funds. Some of that will be for the yonder pouches.
All right, the final public comment portion of the evening. Again, this is for residents and taxpayers for 3 untimed minutes.
I'd like to respond to Mrs. Meyer, if I may. Of course. You mentioned the need for verbalization in the hallways, and that being your reasoning, one of your reasons for voting in favor of the phone ban. I'd just like to say, as soon who's been here in the district for his 13th year now, has had a phone for 6 of those years. I have, at least me personally, and students I surround myself with, we have no problem verbalizing with or without a phone ban, specifically without a phone ban. It's nice to have our phones during lunch. Sometimes we play games with each other on those phones. I have gotten into day-long arguments with my friends without the use of phones, just based on sports teams we had or how the Steelers did the previous weekend. It's not an issue of children verbalizing to each other, because we now also have this message, and this is just part of the previous generation and my generation and the coming generations. This is part of our life. I have never known a world without a smartphone. The iPhone was released September of 2006, and I was born in December of 2006. This is part of my existence. It has become an aid, a 6th finger, if you will, on a hand to communicate with other kids. I can now communicate. I met friends over the summer when I did a program in New York that I still text weekly. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm not talking with my friends enough, because I truly am. I have had arguments about politics, about TV shows, about music, I do write music reviews for the Arrowhead, so I've had plenty heated reviews without the use of any phones specifically about music. So if you're voting in favor of a phone ban due to the fact that students aren't verbalizing to each other as much, or if that is one of your main reasons, I do beg you to reconsider, because the kids who spend every single moment on their phones is a very, very, very small minority of the entire school population. I can say that it's probably only true for probably 5, 6 kids each grade. The vast majority of us have constant conversations, walk down the hallways from class to class without being on our phones, and already abide by some of the rules that the teachers have already put in place on their own volition under the suggestions of the administration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else in the room, we'll go online. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. All right, there are no hands raised. So we'll move to adjournment. We'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
Let's go watch the debate.
Debate. It's debate time.
It's debate time.
Maybe we need to debate every second Tuesday, so.
He told me today. I was like, oh, nothing financial. He's gonna be freaking out and he's gonna miss